Good to see you. Finally, sorry, I have no idea what that was about with meeting in progress. I like started this meeting 5 minutes before we were supposed to go live, and then I have no idea. But thank you. And what's crazy is that like I have my iPad here, so I just happened to check. I said, let me see if she texted because I'm using my phone for the actual Zoom. And I had it on Do Not Disturb. So I was like, oh my gosh, she texted me. So,
Right.
anyways, so good to have you. Thank you for not
I'm glad.
giving up.
Never.
Exactly. Well, super excited to have you on the Junto podcast. For those that don't know, this is a podcast about leadership, and we always talk about some aspects of faith and things of that nature. And of course, we have a unique bond, even though we've never met in person. I feel like we're kind of connected, and we have a little bit of a bond because we share a passion for our military and for our veterans. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But introduce yourself, Kara, and tell us a little bit about yourself and why we're having this conversation today.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, my name's Kara, and um, I am a photographer. And if you hear a dog barking, I'm a pet sitter also. I was hoping that if I
Yes.
put him away, that maybe he would be quiet, but hopefully he quiets down a little bit here. But and I am a daughter of a Vietnam veteran and a granddaughter of a World War II veteran. He was a Marine in the Pacific. And then my other grandpa was in the Army Air Corps during World War II. And so all of my life, I've always had a passion for the military and for supporting our military. And so that has kind of led me, long story short, to where we are today.
Yeah, well, that's super impressive, to have that family history, with your dad and grandpa. What an amazing story. And, you know, uh, I've always held in high regard our military. In fact, I almost, when I was younger, I had a little bit of thought there about joining the military. But of course, when you're 18 and you're just graduating, you have no idea what you want to do with your life. And in hindsight, I always think to myself, man, it would have been cool had I made that decision. But nonetheless, I kind of like you. I have some amazing family members who were in the service, who have amazing records, and who serve their country. And Kara, I really wanted to have a conversation with you because I guess you would at this point have to be living under a rock for people not to know what happened August 26th of 2021. But tell us a little bit about your page, because you have dedicated your social media and things of that nature to honoring the 13, what happened in August of last year. So tell us a little bit about that. I did have a chance to watch your video about Taylor, the whole Cheetos thing, and that was absolutely amazing. But tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So it's kind of a long story how it all started, but it could kind of take us back to August 2021, and when the U.S. was leaving Afghanistan and was just watching, the country fall to the Taliban,
Exactly.
and it was growing just increasingly frustrated and helpless, because what can you do? And
Mm-hmm.
so it was a really frustrating time, and um, frustrating and angering, and those sort of things. And so um, at the time, as the country was falling to the Taliban and the U.S. was leaving Afghanistan, it was all I was very mad. But when the attack happened, and at the time that we were, the news was saying that it happened, they weren't saying how many had died or how many were
Right.
wounded, but we knew for sure that some were. I have never in my life been, and I'm a pretty calm person, I have never in my life been that mad. I was just livid. Like, I couldn't even see straight. I
Yeah.
was so angry that that had happened to those brave enough, those courageous enough to go in when thousands,
Yes.
hundreds of thousands were wanting to leave. They went in, and you know, just so it was a very, not only was I angry and frustrated, but incredibly heartbroken. I didn't even know their names yet. I didn't know,
Right.
I just knew, and you know, numbers kind of, they started to have numbers come in, but they're just at that time on the 26th, there was nothing definite. And I felt so helpless. Like I wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
something to help, but also there was this constant stream of bad news at that time. And you know, like this has fallen to the Taliban, this has fallen to the Taliban, and now Kabul's fallen to the Taliban. And so I was on the verge of just deleting all my social
Yeah.
medias and just
Wow.
checking out for a while, because it was depressing watching, you know, all of this happen and
Yes.
not being able to do anything about it. And then when they were killed and wounded, and you know, the Afghans that were killed and wounded as well, it wasn't just the Americans, it was just such a devastating time. And so I was on the verge of just, you know, just checking out and
Yes.
just trying to get some peace, because it was so heavy on my heart. Well, then the first one that I found out about was Max Soviak, the corpsman, and I saw his face. And
Wow.
you know, I followed a lot of accounts on Instagram, on social media, and so they started sharing, you know, their names, their faces as their names were released. And I thought, okay, you know, as they were getting shared publicly who they were, I thought I'll just share, you know, and that's something I can do, is share their names, share their faces,
Yeah.
so people know who they were, so they're not just a number. And so it started like that. And then, yeah, because there were so many, you know, 13, and it's one and another and another,
Yes.
and you're seeing their faces and you're learning about them. And my heart just grew increasingly heavy each time I learned about a new one. And so then, as we got to know them, different accounts on not just social media, well, not just accounts on social media, but also news articles. And then the different social medias would be, you know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. They were sharing ways to support and, you know, to help and give back. And the options were just scattered all
Yeah.
over. And
Exactly.
I was you know, actively looking for ways to give back, and I was having trouble keeping it all straight, because there
It's a
was just,
lot. It's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was so much. And so I decided that I would just make my page. At this time, I hadn't officially dedicated my page, but I decided I would just start sharing it all in one place on my page. And then you mentioned Tyler. So it was, I think it was August 30th. It was a few days after the attack
Right.
that I learned about him. And I had saw a post talking about how he was wounded, and how catastrophically he was wounded.
Yes.
And when I saw his face and saw the faces of his teammates and how devastating his injuries were, I thought, this is what I can do. Instead of just checking out and doing nothing, and you
Wow.
know, in a selfish way, I decided that this is what this page would become. Just, I had no idea what it would turn into, but I just thought it's going to be for them, for those wounded, for those killed, and for those who were there. And I will share everything I can find, you know, and what I can find the time to share on that
Yeah.
page. And so that's its origins, and kind of to make a long story short.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I love your heart. I love, for those who may tune in, we're not worldwide, of course, but we do have a pretty good local following here, and then we're expanding just as a podcast. But for those who don't know, me, Taylor, one of the 13, Darren Taylor Hoover, was my nephew. His mom, Kelly, is my sister-in-law, and known Taylor my entire life. And you know, one of the things that continues to just humble us is the overwhelming amount of support and love. Guys, when I say that we have, I mean, literally, we still get packages from across the world for Taylor, you know, and it's just so humbling to see how people rallied behind him. And it's so crazy. We had the opportunity to go to Camp Pendleton when his when 2-1 came home, which was his, his group there, and just the names. We literally, there was a ceremony, amazing ceremony, and to see the camaraderie and the brotherhood. And then they had one of their fellow servicemen. They had remarks to say about each and every individual. So when I was there, I feel like I got to learn, not only learn about more about my nephew and how he was in that moment, but also learn about the other ones who were right there with him. And it is such a the only way I can describe it, I literally have never seen or experienced a brotherhood like that. I mean, just the feeling in that place at Camp Pendleton and the ceremony, and I get goosebumps kind of just thinking about how amazing that was. And then people like yourself who want to dedicate their page, like, I mean, gosh, it inspires me so much. And I want to tell you, Kara, we are grateful for you, that you will do what you can to keep their memories alive. And I can speak on behalf of Kelly, Taylor's mom, when I say, it's hard when you lose a child. You don't want their name, you don't want their death to be in vain. And the fact that you have done this and were inspired to do this on their behalf, and not only their behalf, but other servicemen and women who die in the service of their country, it really is inspiring. And to me, that is what America is all about, in my opinion. So thank you from the bottom of our heart on behalf of Taylor and the family for that. So August 26th, and I've recounted a little bit of this story in a previous podcast, and you hit on some really good things, because the way you were feeling, mad and angry at just the way this was done, in Kabul, the whole handling of that, my gosh, it's one of those things where you sit back and you go, how could my nephew be like one of 13 people? That's not a high number, when it comes to the odds, I guess you could say. But you hit on some amazing things there, and just about your feelings towards that. And I've talked to Kelly, my sister-in-law, about how some of the things were there. You can listen in on a previous episode and just see how they were literally just within a football field away of the Taliban, and the things that were taking place, for our troops. And as she mentioned, a lot of these guys were so very young and not trained, to handle what our government should have been doing. But again, how did you process all that when you first heard it? I know you kind of shared a little bit of your feelings, but how did I remember the night I got the call, and they said Taylor was one of the 13, and it just your heart sinks. But how did you process all of that, and again channel that into something positive?
Yeah, well, like I touched on, a huge inspiration to me specifically is my dad. Both my grandpas served as well, but my dad was in Vietnam, and
Wow.
they were not treated well upon coming home. And I have always vowed that our military should never be treated that way again.
Wow.
My dad's welcome home from Vietnam was protesters yelling at him, calling him a
Yes.
baby killer, and throwing rotten tomatoes at his face. And so because of him, I've always just felt very strongly to support our military. So there was also similarities between Vietnam and Afghanistan, and the chaotic withdrawals of both countries. I wasn't alive during the Vietnam War, but just from what I've researched and learned and knew from my dad's frustrations about it, there was a lot that it was like we were repeating history in
Wow.
ways with what was happening in Kabul, just
Yeah.
leaving things behind, and how it felt so disorganized.
Mm.
And, like, so it was very frustrating. And how I channeled that into something positive ultimately was those who were killed and those who were wounded are what inspired me, because I didn't want them being or feeling forgotten, and I didn't want their families feeling like their children, their brothers, their sisters, their uncles, husbands, wives, I didn't want them to feel forgotten. And so
Wow.
I really On Instagram, I never had a lot of followers. Like before this, I had, I don't know, like 1,000 people. And
Right. Yeah.
I'm, and I'm a photographer, and this page that has now been dedicated to this was where I just shared like travels and fun landscape photos. And so I was never an influencer or someone who knew how to get followers. I just somehow, call it fate, call it God, whatever you want to call it. Somehow people just found me. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't hashtagging, like when I was sharing all these ways to give back and to support, I wasn't making hashtags to help people find me. I didn't have time because there was so much information to
Yeah.
share. Just somehow people were finding me, and it was such a blessing because not only was I able to collect, I was collecting, if there was fundraisers or, as each one of them came home, when they were the processions for them coming home, their funerals, um, and then also for the wounded, fundraisers for them as well, and also stories about them. And so I was just kind of putting this all in one place. And as I continued to do it, more people were coming and coming to my page, and just seeing the outpouring of support,
Yes.
not only from America, but worldwide.
That's
I did a
awesome.
poll. I did a poll once. Yes. I did a poll once, asking, because I started having people, tell me in messages where they were from. And I was like, wow. So I asked, where are you from? And there was people from 34 countries or territories in almost all 50 states
Wow. You
that
go,
were
girl.
well, it wasn't me though,
Exactly.
it was those who gave all, and those who gave a heck of a lot for to save lives and to help each other. They're what did this. I feel like I was just the, God uses people in ways, and I feel like I was just the
Yes.
one that was put here to bring for people to come to one place.
Yes.
And so I'm thankful for the opportunity, and I'm honored to do it. And it's been an honor to get to know each of these people. And um, so yeah, that's kind of, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, and more. And I'm just so thankful. I love your perspective. First of all, I couldn't agree more. And it is a blessing. I share the same outlook. And what I love about it, and the reason I wanted to talk to you, because it is so selfless. It is selfless, and like you said, even though you're gaining followers in the process, really, it's about those who gave. And I love the fact that it's just a concise place to go. And I'm thinking about, we had the opportunity, Taylor, along with the others, were memorialized in Arlington, and I'm just thinking about what an amazing, amazing experience that was, to be amongst so many who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And we kind of talk, Kelly, we've talked just as a family, and of course, nobody would ever want this to happen to a family member, but the fact that he has been so honored, and that he's been so cared for, and the messages and the packages and just the honor that was bestowed upon him being in Arlington, that in and of itself should tell you everything that you need to know. So again, we're just so taken back with how you have kind of decided to do something selfless in a world where it's all about me, 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 and I want to gain followers for me, and I want to be the one to go viral for something that I've done. I just think it's extremely, extremely nice. And speaking of that, what are some things that everyday people can do? And I want to get an update on Tyler as well in a minute if you have one, but what are some things we can do? I mean, I'm not expecting all of us to start pages of our own, but just for the common person, just to remember those, and that the freedoms that we enjoy on a daily basis, even though the economy is not what we want it to be. Hopefully, we can get that changed somehow. But certainly, what can we do just to not take this great nation for granted, and also those like your father and grandfather and my nephew and the host of others that have paid that ultimate sacrifice? What are some things we can do?
Absolutely. Well, there's a couple quotes that come to mind. And the first one is a man is not gone until he is forgotten. And I
Wow.
don't know who said that quote, but I first saw it when I was at a Vietnam veterans reunion where I got to meet some of my dad's buddies he served with. It was the first time meeting them, and it was engraved on a stone there. And I saw that, and that really struck me because, men and women, they die, but as long as they're remembered, they're not entirely gone.
Wow.
So I think a really, and it's not something that costs money. It's not something that costs a whole lot of time, but
Wow.
remembering Taylor, remembering the 12 others, and keeping their names, saying their names, and telling their stories, and honoring the life they lived,
Mm.
because they did die doing what they loved.
Yes.
And a lot of people can go their whole lives and never fulfill a dream like
Wow.
these men and women did with coming U.S. Marines. And there
Yes.
should be so much pride in the fact that they accomplished that, and that they died so that others could live,
Yes.
saving others. That is such as devastating as their deaths are for the families and those who love them. It is such an honorable way to die. And I'm just so proud of all of them, and the many who have died before them
Yes.
for our country, and afterwards too. We just had this Osprey crash, and it hurts.
Gosh, I know.
Time. And so, and so another quote that comes to mind, and I have it written on my phone. I want to make sure I say this correctly. So a lot of people attribute this quote to Major Doug Zembiec. I hope I'm saying his last name right. But when I was reading about when I first saw this quote years ago, his friend Eric Kapitulik, I hope I'm not watching these things badly, but he was Zembiec's best friend of 17 years, and he spoke his eulogy at Zembiec's funeral.
Wow.
And Zembiec, I wish I knew I should have probably made sure I knew
You're
how to say
good.
his last name
You're
correctly
good.
before this, but he kept a series of journals, and he would often scribble notes on leadership, pearls of wisdom that he had collected throughout the years by those he respected. And one of the quotes that he wrote in there that a lot of people contribute to him, it says, one entry came from Colonel George Bristol, and it read, "Never forget those who were killed, and never let rest those who killed them."
Wow.
And so again, it's just about the best thing people can do is to remember them and to honor them and to live for them,
Yes.
to live good lives and live
Yes.
well and do good with your life, like they were doing when they died. And so if anything, the selfless way that they died, that those 13 died, encouraged me to live my life more selflessly as well. Because you think how they were going days without sleep and just working around the clock and in just horrific circumstances, with very little water, in the heat. And I mean, we've seen just how terrible the living situation was there. And so, they're like we know, on my page, I'm always sharing ways to support and give back. And even as much as I share, there's still a lot I can't cover just because there's so much
exactly
that people are doing, which is amazing. But, it means a lot to the families when people show up to like, Taylor's hike is coming up, or when there's fundraisers that people are donating to. Anything that you can do to support makes a difference.
It really does.
Yeah. But as long as we remember them and honor them and never let them be forgotten, I think that that's the best thing that people can do.
Kara, I love it. Goodness. Such amazing quotes. And honestly, gosh, I love your perspective. I love the way you think. And it's crazy because we were talking the other day just a little bit about legacy, and we were talking about how, in that same vein of thinking, that how our legacy, typically a life well lived, the legacy or the testimony or whatever you want to call it, typically that outlives the person, right? If you've if you've done well, the lessons that you've taught your children or just people around you, your influence is going to live far beyond even our own life. I've lost Taylor, I've lost my dad, and I know that their influence is always going to be with me, way beyond the time I had with them here. So I love that. I love the quotes, and I couldn't agree more with that. And man, I'm just kind of inspired by this whole conversation. Remember those, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Tell others where they can find you on Instagram, because we want to continue to grow your page. I want to do whatever we can to help you continue to honor our veterans, our service members.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram is the one dedicated to this, and I've actually we didn't quite get around to this in the interview, but I've also decided to dedicate it not just to the 13 and those that are wounded in Kabul, but just in general for military support to, all encompassing support our military. And so it's just been absolutely amazing to see the support, and like we had discussed in there. And so I'm glad to see like we had discussed, not just Americans, but people across the globe wanting to support our military. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to do that there. So my Instagram is at Kara Hackney K, KaraHackney, and then a K, which is my middle initial, because without the middle initial, that username was already taken. So That's where you can find me on there. And yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm on your page now. I just love the tributes. I'm showing that you have the ones listed that, like you mentioned earlier, with the Osprey incident that was so unfortunate, and then of course information about Taylor and his upcoming hike, and some of the other military members here. So again, that is Kara, or at Kara, Kara Hackney, Hackneyk. Please go follow her, and what a selfless thing that she's decided to do with her own page in dedicating that to our servicemen and women. And Kara, I know before our video kind of got wonky there, we were at about 30 minutes, but I just want your message, if there's any thought that you have, or if you can sum all this up in one thought. What is it that you really want others to know, or what is your mission, I guess, just in terms of not only with the page, but in remembering? And I know you've already said a lot, which has been amazing. So,
yeah, my main goal is just for our military, our service members, veterans actively serving, and their families to feel the support, because in the big picture, a lot of it can get lost in the political mumbo jumbo and people battling back and forth. And there are so many good people out there who support our military, who want to do for them, who want to give back, who want to show their support. And the people that serve our country, they don't do it for people to thank them for their service.
Yeah.
But just to know they're supported, so that they aren't the generation that is being welcomed home by protesters at the airport. That is my goal, is for them to feel the support, and not only just to feel the support, but to be supported. Man. And it is just, I have, a lot of, not necessarily met in person yet, but met online. I have gotten to know, would be a better terminology, I have gotten to know some of the most incredible people through this experience. Just incredibly selfless, giving, amazing people with good hearts. And it's been so encouraging to me to witness that. And also, this was a devastating life experience for all of us, and for some more than others. Obviously, for your family, having lost Taylor, it was more personal, but everybody was hit hard by this. And so I think in a way it helped everybody heal when they were able to do something to give back. I think it was a healing experience for people, and continues to be, when they're not just sitting there helpless, knowing that there's so much suffering going on, and they're not able or don't know how to do anything about it, because just on my page, the action that has taken place that I've witnessed, where people went to fundraisers because they found out about them on my page, or they went to funerals of the fallen and
Wow.
hadn't known that was going on in their hometown if it weren't for my page. Marines getting to reunite with each other, because I with the wounded, because I was coordinating with their mothers and helping make that happen. And all of that has been, that and so much more has been healing. People writing letters to the wounded.
Wow.
Oh man, people really jumped on that when I was able to get some addresses of the wounded, and people were so happy to give back, to actively give back to these that gave so much. And then the one that was the most fun that we had touched on earlier was Sergeant Tyler Vargas Andrews' Hot Cheetos video. And I know we're getting close on time.
No, I love it. I definitely want to hear about this. And I had an opportunity to watch it, and I'm like, my gosh, it looks like these are entries from all over the world. And I meant to like bring a bag, but I was kind of rushing to get here. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was the most fun that we all had in giving back. And so how that originated was some of his buddies, both corpsmen and Marines, had told me that he loves Hot Cheetos and kind of on separate occasions, because people were wanting to send care packages. And so I was asking his friends, what sort of snacks he likes, which at that time he couldn't even eat normal food because of his internal injuries. And but eventually we knew he'd be able to, and people wanted to send stuff. And so but everybody kept saying Hot Cheetos, and nobody was really coming up with anything else. They just, the dude is obsessed with Hot Cheetos, and it was like a repeated thing. And then the cherry on top was when his mom got back to me and told me that he loves Limon Hot Cheetos.
Limon.
Yeah, so it's a specific flavor. So when she had gotten back to me with that, I had already came up with this idea to do the video. I was out feeding horses, and the idea just hit me to just, as a way to show him our support, because that support is so worldwide. If people could send a video or a picture and just include Hot Cheetos in it, and make it, a fun way to show him how many people care and are lifting him up in prayer and support. And so that idea hit me. And so everybody just jumped on it and, was just using the regular Hot Cheetos. Well, then his mom said that it's the Limon Hot Cheetos, which no one previously had specified.
Listen, I've never even seen them. I'm going to go to the store and purposely look for them now, but I've never seen those.
Well, they can be hard to find depending on the part of the world that you live in.
Right.
Some people in other countries, they don't even sell Cheetos, and so they were photoshopping them, or some guys that he met that are in the UK that served with him in Kabul. They actually ordered some Cheetos in from out of the country so that they could take a picture with him. And so the effort, that had
yes.
to take. Just so, and then after they all got back home from Kabul, they were kind of scattered all over. So to get them all together for a group picture, even that was, took a lot of effort. And so that was such a fun experience. And at this time, Tyler wasn't on, back on his social media. He was still deep in his recovery process and having multiple surgeries. And so it was easy to keep it a secret from him, but keeping it a secret from his mom was a little trickier. He was on social media, but we were able to, and it was a month-long process of getting it all together. And because, once people sent me all the stuff, then I had to put the video together.
And so, yes, I know how long that can take. And that was like a 12-minute video, which should tell you how many people were sending things, which was super inspiring and touching. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so it was amazing. And a visual of the support, not just, words that people are saying, but actually seeing the faces of the people that are supporting you, I think was really special. And so I was just so glad that, people loved the idea. And then it added humor to it when we found out it was Limon, and then how hard the Limon Cheetos are to find.
Yes.
And so it was a really neat experience. And when I when I was wrapping the video up and getting it done, that's when Tyler was finally starting to get on the internet and, able to get on his phone and get on social media. And so I was like, man, I really got to wrap this up, before we spill the secret accidentally to him. And so he loved the video, and his mom loved the video. And we even had a guy that had been on Jersey Shore, Roger Matthews, had somehow found my page and saw that I was looking for Hot Cheetos posts, and he and his daughter joined in on it. And Tyler's mom has always been a huge fan of the Jersey Shore, so they
Oh
they
my
were so
gosh.
excited. Yeah, I mean, what are the odds, right?
Exactly. How
And
cool.
so they were really excited about that, and they loved the video, and seeing the support out there. I know it meant a lot to them. And so, and like I said, when this was just such a devastating time, we had so much fun with the whole Hot Cheetos project that it really brought light back into
Yes.
our lives by giving back. It was just a way to heal. And so it's just been incredible to be a part of it. And I truly do feel so honored to, do what I can to give back to those who give so much.
Yeah. Do you know how Tyler is right now? I know I've seen a couple of pictures on your Instagram where he's up and he's, given a wave or something like that. But is he doing a lot better?
Yeah, he's doing really good. He's and people can find him. His page is public, and he's appreciated his opportunity to inspire and motivate others as well. And his Instagram is Whistling Death, spelled Whistling Death, just like that. And he's just the speed with which he's recovered is incredible, and the fact that he lived is truly a miracle.
Oh, absolutely.
He lost his right arm above the elbow and his left leg at the hip, and just an incredible amount of internal injuries. And he makes it look easy. Like, he makes all that he's been through look easy. You know how some people are just so good at what they do, or so strong that it's hard to really fathom how difficult what they're doing is. And that's kind of how he is. He just kills it. And so, he's doing really well, and we're so proud of him.
Yeah. And, I follow his page, and I've seen him working out in things. And, it's just, I just don't know if we could really ever understand, and just to see the continued will and the drive on top of everything that he's been through. It's hard for most people to even get up and to be active and to do those things. But to see him do that after he's been through everything he's been through is absolutely amazing. And the whole video with the Cheetos was so touching. I mean, just the montage, and then there were I did see the father and daughter. I'm trying to think back. Was that, how did I miss the guy from Jersey Shore I didn't recognize? But so many touching tributes. And I saw what you were talking about, how people would crop in the bag of Cheetos, and how thoughtful, I think during incidents like this, we truly, truly see the best in humanity. And thank you so much for taking your time to edit that and to put all of that together. Kind of doing this podcast and doing videos and stuff, like, I know the time and effort that's required to do that, and just the fact that you would do that to want to bring light into this. And I love what you said, though, and I think this is true about serving in general. You made a statement that it's healing for us when we begin to serve others, and I'm just thinking, that is the epitome of what these young men and women do out there when they, they're fully aware of the risks. I knew Taylor was, he would always sign up to do, he was right there on the front lines. That's just how he was. But I truly know that everything that he did, and I can only imagine that the rest of these young men and women felt the same way, that he truly was doing it from a heart of service. And I love that you tied that in to how, man, it does so much for our own hearts and spirits just serving others. And what a blessing that is. Kara, we appreciate you so much. We definitely kind of want to stay in touch with you, however, and obviously we're going to continue to promote your page because it is a blessing to the families and friends of those that were lost. And our prayer is that, we always include our servicemen and women in our prayers because, God, you just never know. It's just so crazy, especially in today's world. So, Kara, I can't thank you enough for all that you do and for taking the time to speak with me this evening and to shed a little bit more light. And like you said, the very least we can do is to remember those, and that's exactly what we're trying to do, Kara. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for having me. It was great chatting with you on here, and your family, all of the families are always in my prayers, and I am truly so proud of those men and women and the sacrifices they made and the courage in their heart. And
yes.
Just they truly are the best of us.
Best of us, 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thank you. And, who knows, maybe we'll chit-chat again on a future episode as your page continues to grow. And, again, thanks so much for joining us. I will be in touch with you. I'll be following your page with updates. So thanks again,
great.
Kara. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time so much.
Absolutely. You as well. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.